guys, today I'm going to be reviewing The Man in the High Castle Season 4. So, this review is going to be entirely focused on the very final season of The Man in the High Castle. So, obviously, spoilers if you've not already seen the show, if you've not made it to this point. So yeah, you guys, let's get going. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings. I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible because I could literally sit here and talk about this final season for a good couple hours, most likely. So overall, where to begin with this review, you guys? There's so many things, and I want to make sure I'm just covering as much as possible, because I think there were definitely some very, very extremely high points to the season, but I also think there were a few, not necessarily negatives, because I still thoroughly enjoyed this season, but I do think there were a few weaknesses to this season which felt rather odd considering how strong the previous 3 seasons were. So yeah, I'll kind of get to those things. But overall, this final season, Season 4 of The Man in the High Castle, I thoroughly enjoyed pretty much just about every single minute of this final season. This final season was just very intense. There was a lot of uncertainty to how things might play out. I felt like this season in particular, this was a season of, you're just not quite sure what to expect, because I think we the viewer had an idea, had a notion, had theories about where we thought this final season might go, and I think it kind of took a few twists and turns that were really unexpected, at least to me anyway, because I thought I had things figured, especially, well, like plot-wise, I mean, I kind of figured out where the plot would go. The way this entire season went, the plot went the way I was kind of expecting it to, but like character-wise, I thought certain characters would kind of end at a certain point, and some characters went in a completely opposite direction than what I was kind of anticipating. So overall, this season, I thoroughly enjoyed it. For the most part, a lot of high points to it, more than anything. The good things about this season definitely far outweighed the few kind of minor things that I was frustrated with, to be quite honest. And I think what was a tad bit frustrating initially heading into this final season is that it had a kind of slow pace for the first half of the season. It's like it was only 10 episodes, you know, the whole final season was only 10 episodes, and it kind of reached a point I was like, oh my god, is anything going to happen? You know, we only have so many episodes left, and I feel like characters aren't as far as they should be in the narrative, you know? It just felt so weird to me how slow the pacing was. But still, it's like I was still enjoying what there was, you know? I was never bored. Even though the pacing was a bit slow, I was never bored. I never felt like things were tedious or monotonous, you know? It did just have an odd pacing to it in general, but still, I totally loved it. And yeah, I mean, everything kind of built up and built up and built up, especially in probably, what, episodes 8 and 9, you know, leading into episode 10, that final episode. It's like things were really building up in episode 8 and 9 finally, and yeah, episode 10 is where we do get a lot of unexpected twists and turns, especially with the characters more than anything. Like I said, plot-wise, things kind of made sense, and I kind of figured that would be how certain plot arcs would end. But yeah, character arcs, that was a whole nother story. Like, wow, that was a conclusion that I was not expecting. So yeah, before I get into the things I did enjoy, what the strengths of the season were, let's talk about what the weaknesses of the season were, for me anyway. Like I said, this is all my opinion. You may feel totally different about this. My strengths may be your weaknesses. My weaknesses may be your strengths to the season. Who knows? Yeah, let me look at my notes here, because I do have a big old page of notes here, because I want to make sure I'm covering everything. So yeah, maybe not so much the weaknesses, but like the things that I was upset with. The couple things that I was upset with. Tagomi, you guys. Trade Minister Tagomi. He was killed off screen. That was really upsetting. I mean, we pretty much learned that within a couple minutes of the very first episode of the season, that Tagomi is dead. And yeah, I'm very curious what happened there. If there was problems with scheduling the actor who plays Tagomi, I don't know if there was some scheduling conflicts, or if this was all just a matter of the writers taking some drastic creative liberties or whatever, you know, to get the story told that they needed to tell to get to that final episode, you know what I mean? So I'm just very curious, what was the thinking there with Tagomi, if there is a reason why he was killed off screen, if it was an actor issue with a scheduling issue, or yeah, was it just a thing of, we need to knock this character out of the way because he's just there, he's too much of a convenience, you know, especially to Juliana. So yeah, I was very upset with Tagomi being killed off screen, you guys, because yeah, I was like, what? Wait, what? I had to like pause and back up to make sure I was hearing that correctly. And then as far as some other things that I was upset about, this is mostly just a lot of character stuff, you guys, that I was kind of upset about. No Ed? Where was Ed, you guys? Ed, played so beautifully by DJ Qualls. I've only seen every season one time all the way through, you guys. So I'm trying to remember what happened to Ed exactly, because last season ended with Ed and Robert, you know, weren't they like throwing down that big huge flag of Frank's rebellious symbol, you know, to the resistance or whatever. I think that was the last time we saw Ed, and I don't know if we're just led to believe Ed, he went back to the neutral zone to be with his boyfriend. I really don't know. But yeah, I was really upset with the lack of Ed this season, and like absolutely no mention of him, because like I said, I mean, I can't totally remember where his character ended in the last season, if he kind of mentioned he was heading back to the neutral zone to be with his boyfriend. I really don't know. But yeah, that was kind of frustrating, because I was hoping Ed would pop up somewhere, you know, at least in one episode. Also, another upset. No Nicole. You guys, where the hell was Nicole? I know Nicole, she's a villainess, she's part of the Nazi party, but Nicole is still kind of one of those weirdly interesting, fun characters, because just the way her personality is, it's like you're very intrigued by this crazy woman. So yeah, I know, I remember very distinctly last season ending, and Himmler was telling Nicole that she needed to go back and be re-educated. And now I know there was one point, I can't remember who mentioned it, it might have been Helen. I think one of her daughters was asking her something about, you know, when people go to the re-education center, what happens, and I think it was Helen who was mentioning, a lot of times they don't come back from that. So I don't know if that was kind of a hint there, if for those of us who were wondering the fate of Nicole. Nicole, there's a good chance Nicole went there and she was executed. You guys, there's a very good chance she went there and died. Who knows? But still, absolutely no mention of Nicole, which was kind of a little bit frustrating, since she was such a big character for seasons 2 and 3. And yeah, that leads me nicely into Joe. I was also very disappointed that Joe did not make an appearance this season, you know, because he was such a big character for the first 3 seasons as well. And last season, he was very heavily teased. You know, Juliana kept getting those flashes, those images kind of whatever parallel universe or whatever was going on there that she was seeing, and she kept seeing Joe, and Joe kept shooting her in her visions. And yeah, my big theory last year, I remember theorizing that Joe would make some sort of appearance, because we know that once you're dead in one reality, another version of you from another reality can cross over, in between realities, as long as you're dead. As long as you're dead in certain realities, you can cross into other realities, or whatever the logic is there. So yeah, since Joe was dead in, Juliana's reality, I kind of kept thinking he was going to pop up from some other reality into the reality of the man in the high castle, or whatever. Am I making sense, you guys? So I felt like we were being teased last season for some sort of grand return of Joe, and it didn't happen this season, unfortunately, which was kind of irritating. So yeah, that was some of my big upsets with just characters, characters kind of missing in action that we didn't really get a full resolution to, in my opinion. And then yeah, kind of continuing with some of my weaknesses of the season. Like I said, I want to save all the good stuff for the end of my review. I want to get through some of the things I was a little frustrated with. As far as some of my weaknesses went, let's talk about the Black Communist Rebellion, or the BCR, as they're called. I didn't dislike the BCR. Let's make that clear. I did like the characters. I liked the cause that they were for, and I mean, I definitely did feel empathy, and I did sympathize with their cause, if that makes sense. My problem, though, with this whole plot is that I just was not emotionally connected or emotionally invested with characters like Belle and Elijah. Because I've not spent 4 seasons with these characters. You know what I mean? For me, I was emotionally invested in John and Helen and Juliana and Liam, characters that I have spent since like season 1 with. I mean, even Robert, for crying out loud, you guys, even Robert Chilton. Characters that I have spent 4 seasons with, I was just totally emotionally 100% invested in their characters. And yeah, here comes characters like Belle and Elijah, who are part of the BCR, and like I said, I didn't dislike them. I still really liked them, and their plot was fine, but yeah, I just did not feel anything emotionally. I didn't feel any sort of emotional investment. Like whenever something kind of terrible would happen, I mean, I felt kind of blank about it. I felt kind of indifferent about it, compared to like Juliana and John Smith and Helen, compared to when things would happen to those characters, I'd be like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Stop this madness, So yeah, that was definitely a weakness for me this season, was the inclusion of the BCR. I mean, I'm glad it was still included, though. Don't get me wrong, I'm still glad it was included, because the show has always really focused very heavily on characters in the Nazi Party, characters over in the Japanese states, everybody in the neutral zone. Yeah, we've focused a lot on characters who are gay, we've focused on a lot of characters who are Jewish, but yeah, we've never really focused on any core Black characters, other than Lim. So I'm still glad, and I still appreciate that the BCR existed in this final season. It's just, yeah, I didn't feel anything emotionally connective to them, unfortunately. Let's talk about Inspector Keto. God, I feel like Inspector Keto is always kind of taken down, like he was a huge character in seasons 1 and 2, and then I felt like his role was almost kind of reduced in season 3, and then I felt like he was still almost reduced in this season as well, weirdly enough. It's like, I feel like Keto is one of those characters, it's like the writers always had a hard time kind of figuring out, well, what do we need to give Keto? something to do, because other than John Smith, Keto is our other big villain. And you know, I'm trying, I really want to compare Keto and John Smith, since they are the two primary villains of this show, because one character gets redemption and one doesn't. And I think that was something the writers were really kind of thinking about this entire season, because I kept thinking we were going to get redemption arcs for both Keto and John Smith, but we only get a redemption arc for Keto. And John doesn't, you guys. We'll talk about John. I got a lot to say about John Smith, you guys. But yeah, Keto, I still liked what was going on with him, because he was investigating Tagomi's murder, and, you know, that was all an inside job by Japanese people. Tagomi was killed by his own people. Dear God, that's horrible. And I really did like the relationship between Keto and his son. I don't even remember that Keto had a son. Has it been mentioned in other seasons that Keto had a son? If so, I definitely did not remember, because the son popped up and I was like, wait, what? But yeah, I definitely love that relationship between father and son, and that dynamic and the plot lines it did create and the development it brought out in Keto. But once again, I mean, I almost felt like Keto was one of those weaknesses to the season, even though I love his character, and yeah, I was emotionally connected to Keto. But yeah, it's like there was things about his plot that almost felt like filler sometimes. Because I feel like that's the only reason Tagomi was killed off screen or something, you know? It just felt really convenient for Tagomi to be killed off screen, because that was Keto's only sole purpose and function this entire season, was to figure out that murder, you know? And it's like Keto didn't really have anything else going on other than that relationship with his son, unfortunately. So, I don't know, Keto stuff, even though I did like it to some degree, sometimes I kept finding myself going, okay, let's get back to John Smith and Helen, you guys. I'm more interested in what's going on there rather than what's going on in the Japanese states. I mean, I don't know if that's the thing, too. The Japanese states, you know, the Japanese states, all of the stuff that goes on the West Coast, it's like that's been included since season 1. And I don't know if the writers kind of felt like, you know, we still need to focus on that side. We need to still focus on those characters. And I don't know, it's like, the thing is, it's like the West Coast is the least interesting aspect of what's going on in the show, you know? It's like, I'm far more interested in what's going on in the East Coast of the show. Talking about Robert Chilton and Yukiko, you guys. Okay, Robert and Yukiko, I think were total filler in some ways, but I freaking love them. I love that relationship with Robert and Yukiko. I did not expect to love them. I did not expect to ship them as hard as I was shipping them. I'm just glad Robert lived. I'm glad Yukiko lived. And the thing is, I'm still kind of frustrated with how the Robert and Yukiko thing ended, because they get married, but then yeah, all the Japanese citizens, you know, since Japan kind of withdraws from the West Coast, yeah, they are leaving, and all Japanese citizens have to leave, go back to Japan. Yukiko has to go back, and yeah, Robert can't go with her even though they're married. The thing is, it's like Robert, he goes and meets with that one Japanese man, and he gets like that passport or whatever, so he can go to Japan to reunite with Yukiko. And I'm just so frustrated that the writers didn't at least give us a moment where Robert and Yukiko reunite in Japan. You know, I was so upset and disappointed about that. It's like everybody else kind of got nice little tie-ups and finishes, but yeah, Robert and Yukiko, the last shot we get is of poor Robert watching the ship kind of go, you know. So yeah, I wish we could have got them reuniting in Japan. That would have felt a nice little complete circle there with Robert. So yeah, I think that's it. Is that it for my low points? I think that's it for my low points of the season, or things that I was upset with, disappointed with. Seriously, even though I have some things that I'm a little frustrated with, it's like, it's things that it's like, I almost don't care half the time, you know? I almost don't care. It's like I still enjoyed everything, weirdly enough. Okay, so let's talk about, God, I'm trying not to jump into John and Helen, you guys. I'm really trying not to jump into John and Helen, because I want to kind of save the two of them for last, because they are the highlight of this final season, in my opinion. Let's talk about, like, I guess Juliana and Liam. Um, um, I was a little, God, I feel like I'm still on the weaknesses part of the season that I'm still sitting here discussing, because Juliana, I was getting a little frustrated with Juliana. And, I feel like Juliana had nowhere else to progress to as a character either. If you think about it, if you've watched the entirety of this season, if you think about it, Juliana, I feel like was barely even in this season, you guys. And Alexa Davalos is one of the leading characters of this show. And she's barely in the season. And the thing is, she's not even the character on the poster this season. John Smith is the character on the main poster this season, not Juliana. So I found that interesting. And I don't know what that says. But yeah, it's like Juliana, she felt like a very stagnant character in some ways. It's like she went through she went through her character arc and journey in the first 3 seasons, essentially. And this final season, it's like she really had nowhere to continue to develop to, in my opinion. So she did feel kind of stagnant, and she kind of felt boring, and she felt predictable more than anything. Everything she was kind of saying and doing, she felt very predictable, and yeah, I was getting frustrated. She was getting so obsessed about, I gotta kill John Smith. If whatever I do, I gotta kill John Smith. In the meantime, I'm thinking, no, don't kill John Smith. Please don't kill John Smith. Have a conversation. I just want the two of you to have a conversation and try to understand each other. That's all I wanted, and I didn't really get that either. But yeah, I did love Juliana. I still loved her, It's hard to dislike Juliana for me anyway. I absolutely loved her time in the real world, if you will. This world, the world that those of us that live in this world, this reality, I loved her time in this reality. And what I just found very interesting was, how close she was to the Smiths. What was she teaching? Like karate? Was she teaching karate? She was teaching that to little kids, and yet Thomas, the very much alive and not sick Thomas, was in her class. I loved that closeness that she had with Thomas and Helen, and yeah, I really loved her conversations that she had with John, the John in this reality who is not a bad man by any means, because I think she was conflicted with that. I think she was conflicted the entire time with how to talk to him, how to treat him, and I think if anything, she was looking for an excuse, to maybe stop from having to kill the John Smith in her reality. Like, if I can see something in him that might change my mind, which I thought she might. I thought she might see something in the real world John that would prevent her from wanting to kill her John Smith in her reality. But she was just so focused on killing John Smith, which was a little frustrating, rather than trying to redeem him, maybe. I don't know, because I really wanted John Smith to go through some sort of redemption arc, because he was almost there. He was close, you guys. He was very close, but he didn't get there. And so yeah, I like Juliana in the real world, if you will. A lot of intense action moments there. She got back to her reality a lot quicker than I was expecting. She reunited with Liam. I always love Juliana and Liam together. I will always ship Juliana and Joe. I will always ship them. But alas, Joe is not ever coming back on the show. But yeah, once again, Liam also, I felt like Liam didn't have anywhere to progress to as a character either. He felt kind of stagnant. I mean, he was just kind of there as part of the rebellion. He was there helping out the BCR. I did love his dynamic with the BCR, though. How he was, kind of sweet talking his way in there, like, hey, you need me, I need you, we all need weapons, we all have the same enemy, let's team up, so I like kind of that dynamic with Liam and the BCR. So yeah, the real world, seriously, the episodes in the real world, the alternate world or whatever, those were just seriously some great episodes. They didn't provide much, like, plot-wise, but they provided a lot character-wise, I feel like, which I appreciated. Because then, yeah, once John Smith goes to that reality, too, and he gets to reunite with his son, and yeah, his wife doesn't hate him. The only thing is he doesn't have his daughters in that reality, but yeah, once John Smith got there, too, I was like, man, this is awesome. I am loving this. One of my favorite episodes, I kind of just want to highlight episode 9. Yeah, guys, I gotta highlight episode 9. And I think it's going to be this point in the review that I'm just going to strictly be talking about John Smith and Helen Smith, their relationship, their arc as characters. I can literally spend forever talking about John and Helen, you guys, because they are easily the most interesting, the most fascinating, the most complex characters on this show. Whenever they were not on screen, I was always kind of really impatient, like I want to get back to John and Helen, you know, I want to get back to John and Helen, I need to get back there now, I don't want to listen to anything else going on. But yeah, one of my favorite episodes this season was definitely episode 9, when, you know, here comes Hoover and all of the other higher-ups in the Nazi party. They're all gathered in that meeting room, and everybody thinks that they have, you know, outwitted and outmanipulated or whatever, that I think they've outwitted John Smith. And yeah, they're about to arrest him, and they're accusing him of high treason, and I was like, oh dear God, I was like, John Smith is about to get executed for treason. They're about to take him to the back, and they're about to put a firing squad on him. I had no hope. I should have had better hope in John Smith and his capabilities and his abilities to manipulate. You guys, I should have known better, because then yeah, we get that fantastic, brilliant scene with John Smith and Himmler basically going, oh John, I thought of you as a son, and I saw myself in you, and yeah, that disgust, that pure disgust and vileness on John's face as Himmler is saying all of these things, and these things that John doesn't want to hear, because these are the things that John hates about himself, you know? And I loved when John finally turned to Himmler and he was like, I've never thought of you as a father figure. I hate you. The fact that you see me and you disgust me. And then yeah, he takes the little oxygen mask. He takes that little oxygen mask and he just basically suffocates Himmler with it. Absolute genius and brilliance from John Smith. And then yeah, he walks out that room, you guys. He walks out that room. You've seen the episode. If you're this far into this review, you saw the episode. He walks out after killing Himmler. There's dead bodies everywhere. And then he goes out there, he kills Hoover, and yeah, the new Obergruppenführer, the attractive new, I'm not ashamed to admit it, you guys, that new attractive Obergruppenführer, I really liked him as a character. I wish we could have spent a lot more time with him. But yeah, that guy is on John's side now. Yeah, John kills Hoover, there's all sorts of dead bodies, and once again, John has done it again, you know, every season, there's always a moment where it seems like John is about to get framed for treason, he's going to get executed for treason. There's always a moment every season that you're just deathly terrified of John Smith, because it's like, even though he's part of the Nazi party, you know, he's part of the Nazi party, but what makes him relatable, what makes you sympathize with him is his family. You know, that's the only thing, that's the only reason, is his family, and that every single goddamn thing that he has done on this show has been for his family. So yeah, it's like every season there is a moment where it's like, oh my God, John Smith is about to get killed, and he outwits and he manipulates, and he is just absolutely so cunningly brilliant how he gets out of a situation. Because I was like, oh, he's not going to get out of this situation with Himmler. You know, in episode 9, I was like, there's no way he's going to get out of this. There's mountains and mountains of evidence against him. So that episode 9, seriously, probably the best episode of the final season. That whole ending, where you realize Smith, once again, he's on top. He was already multiple steps ahead, and he had his loyal followers with him. So yeah, where do we go from here? There's so much I want to say about John and Helen, you guys. John and Helen, I guess to keep it blunt and simple, John and Helen ended up being the most tragic characters this season. And the two characters that I was just so upset with and hurts. And it's like, I just can't believe the direction their characters went. Because, yeah, their characters went to some unexpected places for me. I mean, good God, you guys. Helen, I mean, I applaud Helen. Because Helen, she has always strived to kind of be the perfect Nazi wife, you know. But yeah, she starts to realize that she has done things that she's regretted. She knows that she's done wrong, and she knows that. But well, the thing is, once again, everything Helen has done has been in the name of protecting her family. That was the point of that one beautiful flashback that we got, where World War II has just ended, and the Germans are coming in and invading America, and you see that Thomas and Helen have John and Helen have baby Thomas, and yet you can totally see and understand why in that moment, as World War II is ending, why in that moment John and Helen decide to flip allegiances and, you know, turn against America and go with the Germans. You know, you totally understand, you totally sympathize. Yeah, is it right? It's not totally right. There's all sorts of wrong to that, but I think you can understand it. You can understand them as characters, why they make the decision that they do to join the Nazi Party. And so yeah, I mean, I finally like that Helen stood up to her husband, though. You know, I did love that she finally stood up to John, and she finally kind of got out of her head and got out of kind of her position and was like, you know, I need to make a stand. I mean, talk about that one amazing scene with her and her daughter Jennifer, you guys. When Jennifer is just so upset and frustrated, and she hates her mother. She doesn't hate her mother. She despises her mother and what her mother has done. And yeah, when Helen hears that, when she hears that her daughter despises her, that's when it kind of hits Helen like, I'm a terrible person. I have to do something to redeem myself. And yeah, her approaching Juliana and Liam, telling them about that train. And oh my god, that train explosion. You guys, that train explosion was epic. And I just kind of knew. I was like, John's gonna make it out alive. I was like, he's gonna make it out alive, because he always makes it out alive of situations like this. And yeah, I knew Helen was gonna die in that moment. I was like, oh no, I don't want Helen to die, but Helen dying, and John too. Helen and John dying, I mean, that is a complete circle for their characters. You know, that was a complete character arc and circle for them that felt complete. Yeah, did I want it? I didn't want them to die. It felt kind of natural at the end of the day. And so yeah, Helen dies, but Helen definitely redeemed herself, I felt like. So yeah, John, let's talk about John Smith, you guys, because yeah, John, last season, when I was reviewing season 3, my big theory about John Smith, I really thought John was going to take down the Nazi Party from the inside. You know what I mean? Because what we know about John Smith is that slowly, he has elevated up the ladder of success within the Nazi Party, you know, which has always put a target on his back, because he's always just been suspicious to everybody, since he is an American. So I really thought, you know, he was going to climb up this ladder of power with the intent of possibly becoming the new Fuhrer. You know, after Hitler and Himmler, I was like, oh, I bet he's going to try to become the Fuhrer, and then if he does, he can take down the Nazi Party from the inside, essentially. He will have all of the power and control to do what he wants, and yet retake America and turn America back into America, essentially, you know? But no, John Smith failed me, you guys. John Smith failed me. And it's like, why would he not turn things around for his country? You know, why would he not do that? Because there has been opportunity after opportunity for him to turn things around. And yeah, what has the Nazi Party ever done for him? The Nazi Party killed Thomas. yeah, his youngest daughter Amy is a wacko. She's nuts. She's totally in the Nazi party, the Hitler Youth or whatever. Yeah, what has the Nazi party ever done for John Smith? But yet he still chooses the Nazi party at the end of the day. You guys, and that is his tragic flaw. And I don't know if John, because he got to go to the real world. He got to see what America should be after World War II, and that the Axis powers lost. You know, he gets to see this different version of America, but when he goes to this real America, I think he's still upset and still disappointed because there's still another war, because the Vietnam War is happening. The Vietnam War is just starting up, and Thomas joins the army, or the Marines, right? He joins the Marines. Thomas does his patriotic duty, and he joins the Marines. And John can't take this, because what has John been obsessed with for seasons? John has been obsessed with his family, keeping his family alive. He's been obsessed with what happened to Thomas, that he felt like what happened to Thomas was his fault. He tried to prevent Thomas from dying, but he couldn't prevent it. So he's obsessed with this real America. He's obsessed with that. He thinks he has the power and control to keep Thomas out of this, keep Thomas alive. And I think that's his character flaws at the end of the day. You know, his family is his strength, but his family is also his weakness in some ways. And I think that's kind of why he still stays with the Nazi party. He still is about to take out the Japanese states. He's about to kill all those people on the West Coast. I think he's just lost hope, you know? I think because he knows that in the real world, he is a good man. He's a good man. He's loved. He's admired. But in his reality, he's a bad man. You know, he has done terrible things. He has said terrible things, and I think he's just resigned to that fact that he's too far down the rabbit hole of villainy, I suppose. You know, he's too far down that. I think he thinks he can't change. I think he thinks that he can't change, that he can't become a good man again. He can't redeem himself. And then, yeah, I mean, he's lost the love of his daughters. Thomas is dead. He lost the love of Helen. Yeah, Helen is dead after that train accident. So I think John, it's just over for him. You know, it's all over for him. If the Japanese states are wiped out, if the BCR is wiped out, if all the Jews are wiped out, if all this and that is wiped out, I think he just doesn't care anymore. You know, he has nothing to live for, essentially. He's kind of a shell there at the very end, and he has no hope of redemption, because I think he feels like he doesn't deserve it, and why should he work towards redemption, supposedly? So, I mean, that's kind of how I took it. You know, and yeah, John definitely ended. When what we see, Juliana approaches John on that mountain. He is still clutching his armband. You know, he's still clutching his armband with the swastika on it. And yeah, he sits there, and yeah, he's not. The conversation he has with Juliana, I mean, he's not even sitting there talking about the things we're kind of expecting him to talk about. And yeah, the next thing that happens is he shoots himself. He just takes his gun and shoots himself in the head, you guys, and that's the end of John Smith as a character. No redemption arc for him. Nothing. And yeah, Juliana doesn't even get the satisfaction of killing him, because her obsession all season was killing John Smith, finally having this moment, and she just watches as he kills himself, you know? So yeah, I mean, I had a lot of complex feelings there. I had a lot of complex feelings, because I really saw hope in John, that John would redeem himself, you know? Because he's really built him, that character has really been built up every single season, you know? That character has been built up every single season with the hope that he will change, and that he will make America better, you know, bring back America and take it from the Nazi party, essentially. So Okay, enough of John. Like I said, I can go on and on about John Smith, you guys. Seriously. Let's talk about the very ending. What was up with that ending, you guys? With everybody coming through the portal. Juliana kept talking about she was getting some weird vibes. She felt like something was coming. We saw that the portal opened from the other side, which has never happened because the Nazis have always been in charge of opening the portal. And so, yeah, if something happens and they have no control of opening the portal, it's being opened from the other side. So, yeah, what was up with that ending? You guys, I didn't totally understand what that ending was with the portal opening and who all those people were coming through. And yeah, for another thing, yeah, the man in the high castle, Abinson, he, all those people are coming from the one direction and he's going the other direction. He's just straight out leaving. And yeah, it's like, why do all these people want to come to this reality? This is a horrible reality. I've seen some reviews of other people talking about the significance of the ending, that you can kind of take the ending how you want to take it. You can either take it literally. I've seen people theorize that you could take it literally, that people are literally coming from other dimensions coming into this one, traveling essentially. Or I've seen other reviewers say you can take the ending a bit more spiritually or metaphorically. Perhaps, like, all of these people symbolizing the dead, essentially, if that makes sense. I'm not sure. And yeah, I'm not even sure how to imagine that ending. I'm not sure what to take away from that ending, because it's kind of strange and weird. Because I didn't particularly like it that much, to be honest. I would have preferred it to end on just something else, I suppose. I don't know what, though. Because, yeah, that ending was just very confusing to me. I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know if I should take it literally, if I should take it metaphorically, symbolically. I don't know. I don't know what to take from that. And where is this new world going? Helen's dead. Now, John's dead, Himmler's dead, all of those higher ups in the Nazi party are dead, and we do get that shot once John is dead. His one friend, I guess his second in command, what was his name, Whitcroft, we do see Whitcroft as soon as he gets the news that John is dead. We see him take off his badge, one of his badges or medals or whatever with the swastika on it. We see him rip it off and just throw it on the table, and I feel like that guy, I feel like that guy was kind of, I think Whitcroft was always waiting for John to make the decision of, hey, if you want to take down the Nazi party, I'm there with you. If you want to take them down, I'm there with you. Just got to give me the word. And so I think Whitcroft was waiting, but then, yeah, John never, switched over like we thought he would. But yeah, I think Whitcroft takes that opportunity to be like, okay, I'm ripping this off, this symbol of hatred and prejudice, I'm ripping it off, I'm turning things around. And yeah, he does. Here comes those, the bombers coming in to take out San Francisco, and yeah, those planes, they turn around at the last minute. He makes that decision to turn that around. So yeah, where is this new world going? I mean, even though it has a happy ending, the ending has a nice happy conclusion and ending to an extent, because, yeah, San Francisco is saved, the good guys have won, which is what we've wanted, but it's still going to be a process, it's still going to be a process. Even though the good guys have won, there's still going to be casualties, and there's still going to be a process of trying to get America back to being America, essentially. Because, yeah, even though the Japanese have left, there is still, the Reich on the East Coast. That is still a problem. So what do you do about that? And is that all I have to say about this season, you guys? I have so much to say. I have so many thoughts and feelings that I could literally go on and on about, but I need to control. This video is already very long as it is. But overall, my feelings. I overall really did enjoy this final season. It definitely had its ups and downs, but the things that I enjoyed, they outweighed the things that I was kind of having problems with. I still continue to love the characters. I love the stories. I was upset where some of the characters went, especially like the villains, because I was hoping the villains would have more redemption arcs. At least Keto got a redemption. Yeah, I'm glad Keto at least got a redemption, but yeah, I was a little upset that John didn't get that redemption, because he did. His character definitely, he ended as a tragic figure. He ended as a very tragic, flawed figure. But yeah, I love the season. I'm definitely very interested to rewatch the entirety of the show because, you know, in between every season, it's like the first two seasons came out relatively close together, but then there was that huge gap of like 2 years in between seasons 2 and 3, and then yeah, we had a pretty large gap here in between season 3 and 4. But yeah, I would really love to sit and rewatch all the seasons, maybe pick up on some things a little better, and yeah, just experience the journey, like binging through the journey, you know, and really feeling emotionally invested into it. But yeah, seriously, The Man in the High Castle, all 4 seasons, just such an amazing show altogether, all around, perfectly casted, perfectly directed, written. Seriously, just the writing in the show is stunning. I really loved what was done with this show, kind of the themes and the messages more than anything. This whole what if scenario, what if possibility, you know, if Japan and Germany had won World War II and this would be where we're at. And I wish more people would watch this show because I think people are really missing out on how special this show is and how truly amazing and beautifully crafted it is. So you guys, that is it for this very lengthy long review of The Man in the High Castle. Please, please, in the comments below, if you have watched this show, if you've watched the final season, I definitely would love to hear your thoughts and feelings. How did you feel about certain character arcs? Do you feel the same way as I do? Just let me know. So that's it for this review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.